Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good morning, afternoon, and evening for you guys who watch this video. Okay, before I start my explanation about this course, poetry course assignment about elements of poetry, I would introduce myself first. My name is Aulia Naufan Widana, and I'm from English Department 2021 A class. Okay, my student ID is 21 05 08 60 and 23. Okay, let me start my presentation and explaining about elements of poetry. Okay, okay, let me start. Introduction. Poetry is the masterpiece ever created by mankind. In its development, poetry itself has become part of mankind, which is basically that poetry is the fruit of expressing human thoughts and feelings that are poured into words, and when these words are conveyed, will give birth to an attraction that fascinates others with sound, rhythm, rhyme, and sound, array, and stanza arrangement. Okay, poetry has been created by humans from time to time. It is even recorded in history that poetry has been rhymed since ancient times. This world has given birth to a lot of talented poets whose, whose creations are able to produce a lot of inspirations, views, and various meanings, which of course everyone is different about this. Okay, this is for the example of poetry. One of the famous poets born in the early modern era is W. H. Auden. During his lifetime, there were many works of poetry that he had created, one of which was the more loving one. Okay, let me uh, read this poem to you guys. Make sure you guys listening the example of my recitation this. Okay, the more loving one. Looking up at the stars, I know quite well that for all they care, I can go to hell. But on earth, indifference is the least we have to dread from man or beast. How should we like it were stars to burn with a passion for us we could not return if equal affection cannot be? Let the more loving one be me. Admire as I think I am of stars that do not give a damn. I cannot now I see them. Say I miss one terribly all day. Were all stars to disappear or die, I should learn to look at an empty sky and feel its total dark sublime. Though this might make me a little time. Okay, isn't beautiful? As is, as is, as if the poem is like philosophy about beauty, and Auden wants to convey in his own way. Okay, before we know more about this poem and the elements in that include in these poems, let we know first thing is the poets itself. Like tidak kenal maka tidak sayang. Makanya, so that I would to give you guys information about these quotes. W.H. Auden. Okay, as started earlier, this poem has written in 1957 after Auden's more political poetry had been written. Auden would write other poems with motifs or unrequited love, but this is perhaps his most famous. Many critics believe Auden knew unrequited love to all too well. The poet married blithely while still in Europe. His wife, Erika Mann, the daughter of the German writer Thomas Mann, married Auden in order to flee Nazi Germany. Once he safety in England, the couple divorced. After moving to the United States, Auden met and fell in love with the love of his life, fellow poet Chester Kalman. Even though homosexual relationships were quite taboo at the time, the couple lived rather openly. And upon his death, Auden bequeathed his entire estate to Kalman. This particular poem is hands down my absolute favorite Auden poem. It's both lamentable and heartwarming and deals with a subject matter that Auden had plenty of experience and of which more or less all of us can relate. The pain of unrequited love. I've always favored the idea that Auden creates a gorgeously tragic metaphor out of stars in the sky to be all the lovers who never return his affection. The more loving one is some respect could fundamentally be considered to be Auden's extensive self-examination of his failures in romantic endeavors, and delicately implemented natural imagery enhances the idea that these failures are ultimately an inevitable phase to human nature. So, how does Auden find create and convey the result of his thoughts into meaningful words? Okay, let's go into the core of the material that elements of poetry. So you guys can understanding and more respectful for the poem that they created. Okay. This is my contents on this explanation. The first is structure, the second is literary device, and the last is meaning. Okay, the first is structure. Structures I divided into two. The first is stanzas and the second is form. Okay, stanza. Are a series of lines grouped together and separated by an empty line from other stanzas. Okay, they are equivalent of a paragraph in an essay. One way to identify a stanza is to count the number of lines. Like this, you guys can see this is there are the number of lines that stanzas included. The first is couplet. Couplet mean two lines, and then tercet Tercet in 3 lines, and the next is quatrain. Quatrain is 4 lines. Uh, Cinquain is 4 lines, 5 lines, and sestet is 6 lines. Septet is 7 lines, and there is one more lines is octave. Octave means 8 lines. Uh, for this poems, the more loving one, is what do you guys think of this? How stanzas that are included in these poems? Okay, the the answer is four. You guys can see for the first stanza is looking up at the stars, and the second is how should we look it where stars, and the third is admire a sighting, and the last stanzas or lines is where all stars to disappear or die. Okay, this is means the Moroving one have 4 stanzas. Okay, the next is form. Form, I divided this into 3 sections. The first is lyric, the second is narrative, and the last is descriptive. So, what is form? A form is a poem may or maybe not have a specific number of lines, rhymes in and or metrical pattern, but it can still be labeled according to its form or style. Here are the 3 most common types of poems according to form. Okay, the first is lyric. Lyric poetry. It is any poem with one speaker, not necessarily the poet, who expresses strong doubts and feelings. Most poems, especially modern ones, are lyric poems. The second is narrative. Narrative poem. It is a poem that tells a story. Its structure resembles the plot line of a story. Let's take the example is the introduction of conflict and characters, rising action and climax, and the denouncement. Okay, the last is descriptive poem. Descriptive poem is a poem that describes the world that surrounds the speaker. It uses elaborate imagery and adjectives, while emotional is more outward focused than lyric poetry, which is more personal and introspective. Uh, so what? So what about uh, the more loving one poems? What do you guys think? The form that in it the poem is a lyric, narrative, or descriptive. Uh, okay, myself, I think the form is descriptive. So why? So because the poem describes the words that surround the speaker. Let you guys can see there are words or lines that often write about the world. Like the example is, but on earth the indifference is the least. And this poem is give the emotional feelings about himself, about I. I can go to hell. I'm a quarter. Uh, admire as I think I am of stars. I cannot. I miss. I should learn. So I from that, I think the most the most make sense of this on the poem is descriptive form. Okay. We move into the literary devices. Okay, for the literary devices, I split into two sections. For the first is diction, and the last is figurative. Diction. Okay, Lit- basically, literary device is commonly the term literary devices refers to the typical structures used by writers in their works to convey his or her message in a simple manner to his or her reader. When employed properly, the different literary devices help readers to appreciate, inter- interpret, and analyze a literary work. So, for diction, definition of diction as a literary device, diction refers to the linguistic choices made by a writer to convey an idea or point of view, or tell a story in an effective way. The author's selection of words or vocabulary and the artistic arrangement of these words is what constitutes the styles and establishes the voice of literary works. Uh, this is you can guys see in the side of the PowerPoint. There are 7 common types of diction. Diction is a literary device that allows a writer to carefully choose words and vocabulary to communicate to the reader as well as establish a specific voice of writing or writing style. Diction is used in every form of writing, from poetic and figurative language to formal and concise wording. For the first is formal. Formal is use of elevated, sophisticated professional language. Formal diction doesn't feature slang or colloquialism, but instead adheres to proper grammar and complex sentence structure. Informal. Informal is conversation, casual, realistic language. Informal diction is often used by writers to portray real-life communication or dialogues between realistic characters, it is often utilized in narrative literary forms used such as short fiction and words. The third is colloquial. Colloquial is informal words or expressions that are typically associated with a specific region or time period. Colloquialism are useful are useful in portraying realistic and colorful characters. The fourth is slang. Slang is words or phrases originated within a particular culture or subgroup that become widespread in use. And pedantic. Pedantic detailed academic writing. Pedantic diction generally reflects deliberate, educated word choices with denotative intention. And concrete. Concrete use of words for denotating meaning. Concrete diction is specific, literal, and detailed so that it's not open to interpretation. And the last is poetic. Poetic is lyrical wording related to and reflect reflective of a poem's themes. Poetic diction typically includes the descriptive language that is potentially set to rhythm and matter. So, so guys, what do you think about this poem? About the more loving one, which is diction that the poem has? The formal one, informal, colloquial, slang, pedantic, concrete, or poetic? For myself itself, the diction that the poem has is poetic itself, that lyrical wording related to and reflective of a poem's theme. Poetic diction typically includes descriptive language that is potentially to set to rhythm and matter. Uh, so, what you guys answer for this for diction? Okay, we move to the other literary devices is figurative devices. Sorry, figurative devices. So, before we move to figurative devices, I want to tell about difference between diction and dialect. Some people can find the difference between the terms of diction and dialect confusing. Diction refers to the voice of words and linguistics as well as the levels of effectiveness and clarity of those choices. In addition, diction refers to how such words are presented to readers or an audience. Dialect, dialect, and the other side is dialect. Dialect, as a matter of linguistics, refers to a variety of spoken language that characterizes a certain region, community, or group of people. Dialect often reflects minor differences in terms of vocabulary, pronunciation, spelling, and style of speech. The okay for the next is impacts of diction on themes. Not only in common communication of daily lives, but also in literary works, diction plays an important role in setting things right. The first significant development comes in the thematic strands that a literary piece propagates, although tone and point of view to contribute to thematic strands. They depend on diction in passing on those ideas. Therefore, when diction moves, change, changes colors and sound, shows nuances, it impacts the thematic strands in different ways. Okay, we move to into the next section of this uh, literary device is figurative devices. So, on the contrary, are structures usually a word or a process in literary text that writers employ to achieve not merely artistic ends, but also readers a greater understanding and appreciation of their literary works. Figurative languages use figurative of speech to be more effective, persuasive, and impactful. Figurative languages can appear in multiple forms with the use of different literary and rhetorical devices. According to Merriam-Webster's encyclopedia, the definition of figurative language has five different forms. The first is understatement or emphasis. The second is relationship or resemblance. The third is figures of sound. The fourth is errors, and the last is verbal games. Figurative language is seen in the literature, especially in the poetry, where writers appeal to the sense of the reader. Through figurative language, writers usually use specific phrase or word to express something beyond the literal meaning. So this is the example of figurative devices that I include in this slide. For the first is imagery. Imagery is the use of figurative language to create visual representation of actions, objects, and ideas in our mind in such a way that they appeal to our physical sense. Okay, the second is simile and metaphor. Both compare two distinct objects and draw similarity between them. The differences is that uses as or like and metaphor doesn't. The third is hyperbole. Hyperbole it is deliberate exaggeration of actions and ideas for the sake of emphasis. Personification it gives a thing, an idea, or an animal human qualities. Alliteration it refers to the same consonant sound in words coming together. Allegory it is a literary technique in which an abstract idea is given a form of characters, action, or events. And the last is irony. It is use of the words in such a way in which the intended meaning is completely opposite to their literal meaning. So, from this example of figurative devices, you guys who watch this uh, presentation, you give the example of the one one of these example to the poem the more loving one. Uh, can you give the example? One of these figurative devices. I give you guys time to find it. Okay. I will give you guys the example of imagery figurative language in the more loving one poems. So imagery card is figurative language to create visual representation of actions, subjects, and ideas in our mind in such a way that they appeal to our physical sense. So you can just see in the stanza one in third lines, but on earth indifferent is the least. We have to dread from man or beast. Uh, my personal thing, these lines is is imagery figurative language. So because in this line, the words is representation about objects in the eye in this world uh, is mine. I think that's for the imagery words. What do you guys think? Okay, so I move into the next section about function of literary devices. In general, the literary devices are a collection of universal artistic structures that are so of typical of all works of literature frequently employed by the writers to give meanings and a logical framework to their works through language. When such works are read by readers, they ultimately recognize and appreciate them. Because of their universality, they also allow the readers to compare work of one writer to that of the other to determine its worth. They not only beautify the piece of literature, but also give the deeper meanings to it, testing the very understanding of the readers along with providing them enjoyment of reading. Besides, they help motivating readers' imagination to visualize the characters and scenes more clearly. Okay, we move into the last section of this content is meaning. In general, poetry deals with particular things in concrete language since our emotions most readily respond to these things. From the poem's particular situation, the reader may then generalize. The generalities arise by implication from the particular. Word meanings are not only restricted to the dictionary meanings. The full meaning of a word includes both the dictionary definition and the special meaning and associations. Sorry, uh, the special meanings and the association word text in a given phrase or expressions. Okay, I already split into the pumps the modeling one into four section. There are stanza one, stanza two, stanza three, and stanza four. I want you guys to give your analysis of the meaning in this poem. You guys can write into the books or paper or the comment section. I don't know, but I want you guys to give your personal analysis about this. Okay, I same with you guys. I want to give my personal doubt about these bombs that I analysis it myself. For the stanza one, in the first stanza, Auden establishes his extended metaphor of stars as lovers in the first two lines. The speaker is informing his reader from the very beginning that he knows just by looking at his lover that the emotions he feels for him or her are not return. Additionally, the unrooted lover is so indifferent that he or she doesn't care about the fate of the speaker. In the end of the stanza, which is in lines 3 and 4, Aulian perhaps insinuating that he would rather his lover feel indifference toward as opposed to the contrary, which could be hatred or love that was unrequited by him. So for the stanza 3 and stanza 4, I hope you guys can found your analysis about this poem. I already give you guys the example for stanza 1. Okay, I hope you guys can understand and take the positive advice from this from my presentation on this time. I hope you guys still healthy and safe. Okay, goodbyes for you guys. Okay, for the stanza 2, in the second, I will start.